Hi, my name is Meg Trim. I hope you can hear me because I've decided to make this video outside in the middle of a thunderstorm. Um, I am a co-coordinator of Surge for Beloit, that's standing up for racial justice, and I'm a board member of Yellow Brick Road organization, that's our local LGBT org. I'm also an aspirant in the Episcopal Church, which means I'm like really early in the process of discerning priesthood. So maybe I'll be a priest one day. And all of these things are part of how I exist in the world and have joined communities that I think are working for justice. This video is a response to Yusuf Adama's challenge that people who quote-unquote say they're not racist actually speak up and denounce racism. And it may seem like a little thing, but I think it's actually really profound. So here I go. I denounce racism in all of its forms. And I want to talk about why, or I've just been brooding on these things for a while now, and I wanted to share some of my reasonings. I grew up in the 90s. That's my cat and my dog. I grew up in the 90s, and we watched, the movies that I watched were always about, like, you know, the President of the United States sends in a team to rescue one American. Because the idea that one life mattered so much, you know, that, like losing one person was too many, you know, the idea that, like, we didn't believe in collateral damage. We tried to avoid collateral damage, and that's just not the case, but that's, like, the ideal that I grew up with. And also from the 90s, the ironic twist of that is that the history that I was taught in school was a lot more like propaganda than it was history. We were taught all of these, like, glorious things about the United States. You know, we won World War II, and the Civil Rights Movement was amazing, and it was, but we didn't ever learn about the, like, really nasty underbellies of those things. Of course we learned a little bit about slavery, but, you know, the big thing was the Emancipation Proclamation, like, nobody's a slave anymore, everybody's 100% free now, and those things just aren't true. And so now I know about things like, you know, the fact that we're standing on stolen land, and that the westward expansion was not some, like, glorious movement. It was genocide and displacement of hundreds of millions of people. And, you know, right now we have kids in cages because I don't even know why. I can't even explain that one. Because of some kind of ideal of what an American is and what an American isn't, and it's disgusting. Now we know about things like, okay, so slavery was terrible and how long it lasted. 1619, you guys. 1619. 400 years. It's insane. Jim Crow, redlining. I don't feel like enough people have been taught about redlining. Like, we learned about Jim Crow only because we got to learn about the Civil Rights Movement, right? But, like, nobody taught us about how, like, African American people and any people of color were kept out of white neighborhoods. And, you know, where you live in this country is directly tied to the kind of education that you will get, to the kind of job that you will get, to the kind of opportunities that you will get, to the kind of capital that you have access to so many factors that, you know, make the American dream possible, or the capitalist American dream. But the point is, like, they have, and the kind of medical care that you get, all of these things have real consequences for people's lives, you know, but when you don't know that this practice was imposed by racist realtors, then you think, like, oh, you know, those people chose to be in that neighborhood, and they chose to not get a job, and they're lazy, and all of this other really horrible shit that we've heard. It's all bullshit. And there are systemic reasons why things are the way they are. There are human causes, and I don't just mean, like, individual choices of black people. I mean individual choices of white people who wield the levers of power over the course of our history have caused just, like, insurmountable, it feels insurmountable sometimes, destruction to people's lives. And then, then people will say things like, be patient. Well, how much longer are people supposed to be patient? Black and brown people are dying in our streets, and you want them to be patient? Black and brown people are being barred from getting the kind of education that their kids deserve. You want them to be patient? Would you be patient? Are you kidding me? No. Everyone is entitled to the things that you have, white people. Everyone. So that's part of it. The other things I want to say are, okay, so if all of these issues, if by defunding the police and redirecting things to social services can help black and brown people, then black and brown Americans, then that helps Americans, right? Like, if it helps LGBT Americans, then it helps Americans. If it helps disabled Americans, then it helps Americans, right? And I don't mean to use that term, like, to the exclusion of people who are not citizens, because I believe, like Ibu Patel said at my commencement ceremony from DePaul in 2013, when you live in this country lives in you. And I'm fully aware that as a white person, I descended from immigrants. And that's a complicated clusterfuck right there, but I think that everybody has the right to access, and certainly everybody has a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and that does not include, being caged at our border when you try to enter this country for any reason, legal or illegal or whatever. Human rights are human rights, and this country has taken a very terrifying turn toward not respecting human rights. Although, when you put it in the context of the history that I just named, it's not so much of a turn, is it? It's kind of like the way things have been. But we can do better. We need to do better. One of the things that I said yesterday at the Marsha P. Johnson Intersectional Pride is that this shouldn't be a choice. Working for justice should not be a choice. Stopping people from being murdered should not be a choice. Okay, getting kids out of cages should not be a choice. Making reparations should not be a choice, man. I feel compelled, and I feel like everyone should feel like they need to do this, because this makes America better, because there are Americans who are suffering. And so if you believe in the whole concept of, like, who we're supposed to be as a nation, you got a lot of work to do, motherfucker. We all do. One of the things that privilege gives people is the ability not just to, like, look the other way, but to sort of protect themselves. I think because, like, one of the things that's happening right now is, like, you don't just, like, you don't march toward justice. You stumble toward it. At least I do. And I have put my foot in my mouth, and I have said the wrong thing, and I have inadvertently put myself before others, and the whole point, though, is to check yourself, and check myself, and, apologize when I'm wrong, and make amends, and make it right, and lift up the voices that need to be heard, and, to speak when I need to be heard, and to allow others to speak when I don't need to be heard. If I have the same thing to say, but it's not personal to me, and it's personal to a person of color, then yeah, let them speak. Like, the whole, like, white savior, white hero, like, we always have to be the last one standing is bullshit. I'm talking to you, Joe Biden. You should not have entered this race. There were qualified, diverse candidates, and you were like, you know what this race needs? A white guy. Fuck you. Also, I'm voting for you because I don't want to die, and I'm afraid Trump is going to put me in a concentration camp because I'm queer. But fuck you. Okay, this is really loaded. But back to my main point, like, what the world needs now is humility. And courage. And, be brave enough to fuck up in the process of doing the right thing, because that's how you practice. And if you don't practice, you'll never get there. And the whole world needs us all to practice and try and stumble and try. So keep going. Don't stop. The other thing that I wanted to say is, don't say thank you to me. Guys, I love you, and I appreciate, like, the kudos, and I do feel like I'm doing the right things, but don't thank me and do nothing, okay? Match me. Match me. Bye.